They all stared at the river as if it held the answer to a question none of them knew how to ask. It was wide and slow, the surface shimmering under a lavender sun filtered through thick, copper-colored clouds. On the far bank, a glowing obelisk marked the finish line. Beyond it stood a tall, silent instructor in ceremonial black armor, arms folded, observing. Around the river, the jungle pulsed with life. Chirping, rustling, breathing things. This was the 10th trial of the Galactic Survival Academy, and every cadet knew failure here didn't just mean a low grade. It meant expulsion. On the bank stood 31 students, representing 18 species. They were the best their homeworlds had to offer, most of them trained since childhood in theory, survival protocol, engineering, and applied environmental logic. And then there was Emily Dunn, the only human in the class, standing barefoot with a leaf in her mouth and a vine coiled like a whip around her neck, humming quietly to herself while the others argued. Phyrexians, with their chitinous arms, clicked mandibles furiously while attempting to lash together logs using fibrous plant stems they didn't understand. Galorians, gelatinous and mathematical, had designed a floating platform of reeds but had no method to steer it. Vekri, feathered and flightless, were building a raft shaped like a bird for superstitious reasons, despite the known hydrodynamic penalties. Each group, according to their biology and tradition, attacked the problem like it was a competition of complexity, assuming the more parts, the more likely it was to succeed. No one looked at the terrain. No one studied the wind. No one dared test the water temperature with more than a probe, as if Deathworlders couldn't survive what they didn't predict. Emily walked through the brush with the quiet grace of someone raised near swamps. Her great-grandmother had carved dugouts in Louisiana. Her uncle fished with sails stitched from tarp and chicken wire. She had no probe, no sensor, just instinct, memory, and 2 hands. She found a half-hollowed tree trunk, likely gnawed out by some local termite. It was light, buoyant. She knocked on the wood, listening. It sang like pine. She smiled and dragged it to the shore. From the riverbank, Phyrexian eyes narrowed. "You're not following protocol," hissed Akarsh, a 6-limbed cadet covered in wet moss. "You haven't submitted a blueprint or design calculation. You'll be penalized." Emily didn't respond. She knelt and began stripping bark in long, curling ribbons. With a sharp-edged stone, she carved seats. With vines, she tied crossbars to stabilize a hollow log, widening it without adding weight. Every movement was efficient, not rushed, not sloppy, just human. By hour 2, the other cadets were still fighting over leadership roles and arguing about structural weaknesses. A Vekri student screamed when their raft capsized after their calculations forgot to factor the river's current. A Galorian accused another team of sabotage when their floating platform turned 360 degrees and spun in place. Emily tied 2 leaf-wrapped stalks into a triangle and lifted it like a sail. The instructor raised one eyebrow. At hour 3, she was done. The canoe was elegant, long, narrow, stable. It had a reinforced rear made of thickened bark and a simple rudder carved from a wide, flat jungle leaf stiffened by dried sap. She dipped the rudder experimentally and let the breeze pull her vessel slightly sideways before adjusting it with foot and paddle. The canoe turned smoothly. She laughed under her breath. "Wind's my friend today," she whispered. By now, half the alien students were watching her instead of working. One brave Phyrexian approached her and crouched low. "What species schematics did you use?" That thing isn't the database." "It's not," Emily said plainly. "It's something my people built before they had steel. It just works. But it has no propulsion, no analytics, no fail-safe. I have a paddle and a brain." "You're insane." Emily nodded and smiled. At hour 4, the signal horn blew, marking the halfway point. All cadets were expected to begin crossing now. Most scrambled to shove their half-broken rafts into the water. Chaos erupted. A platform split in half before even launching. An anti-grav raft shorted out when moisture seeped into the circuit leaf. One group of insectoid twins were already waist-deep trying to push a sinking structure of mud and regrets into deeper water. Meanwhile, Emily climbed into her canoe, leaned back slightly and let the breeze push her. With a paddle in one hand and foot guiding the rudder, she began her slow, controlled drift across. The river wasn't just a test of construction. It was alive. Every few minutes, a soft swirl in the current warned the submerged creatures. At one point, a bubble the size of a helmet breached near a Galorian raft, causing 3 students to dive into the water and cling to a tree root, screaming in 5 different languages. Emily did not stop paddling. She simply adjusted course to flow slightly faster downstream and used the current like a friend, not a foe. Her canoe glided like a feather on silk. One Vekari shouted, "That's cheating." The human used natural terrain. The instructor finally spoke, his voice broadcast across the riverbank from the far side. Natural terrain is part of the trial. Resourcefulness is not forbidden. Success is not treason. Emily arrived first, of course. She stepped onto the shore dry, her clothes unstained, and pulled the canoe up with one hand, then turned to watch the others struggle. She didn't gloat. She simply sat on a rock and watched, curious, interested, like someone witnessing a different species try to reinvent what had already been solved 1,000 years ago. The instructor crossed to her and stood beside her. "How did you know about the currents?" "The leaf rudder? The sap stiffening." "I didn't," she replied. "I didn't measure it. I just knew. Humans, we used to live by water. Fish cross, trade, escape. We learned to read wind the way you read equations. My hands remember what my brain doesn't have to. Primitive methods." One Threxian hissed from midstream, still clinging to his raft as it rotated in helpless circles. Emily turned and raised an eyebrow. "You all came here with degrees, tech, tools. I came with fingers, stories, and some dirt under my nails. We're not primitive. We're practice." The last raft, shattered and half-drowned, arrived just before hour 6. For soaked students dragged to the shore, shivering, miserable. The instructor waited, then raised his hand. "Evaluation complete," he announced. 17 teams failed to complete the crossing with viable vessels. 3 arrived by swimming after their vessels sank. 1 succeeded by incorporating ancient hydrodynamic techniques not present in any database. He turned toward Emily. "Human, your canoe will be preserved in the Academy's archive. Your design has been classified as efficient, replicable, and dangerously underestimated. Well done." One Galorian slumped onto the ground and whispered, "She built a sailing weapon out of garbage." The instructor nodded. "Indeed, and that is what makes humans the galaxy's most unsettling survivalists. You give them a leaf, they make a compass. You give them a log, they make a canoe. You ban their tools, they invent new ones. You tell them the river is a wall, and they build a door." As the class was dismissed, most students walked in silence. Some angry, some embarrassed, some in awe. Emily picked up her paddle, shrugged, and walked alone toward the barracks, the leaf rudder fluttering in the wind like a forgotten flag of a war no one knew they'd lost. No one clapped. No one protested. But in that quiet hush, something had changed. They all knew now. The human wasn't there to compete. She was there to remind them. Humans had already survived everything once before.